Everybody, indie world has problems. Okay, I think that these shows, they just have problems, and it's time that we really just get it out there. And frankly, I'm gonna be blunt. I think the problems are on both sides. Okay, I think that there are issues here that should be resolved. Otherwise, these presentations are just gonna be blah forever, and people are gonna have the reactions we're seeing today. So what's going on, everybody? It's Zach, the enforcer. I'm here to fix indie world today in this video. What's going on, everybody? Make sure to hit that like button if you enjoy, and let me know if you agree or you do something different or what you think the problem is in the comments down below. I know a lot of people were perturbed. I was up at 6 a.m. for this show. All right, so I feel you. And here we go. It was a strange experience to watch this 20-minute showcase that everyone had been so excited for. Hollow Knight was not there, but we should have known better. And there's a major issue with indie worlds on Nintendo's part, and then I think also on kind of our part. All right, I'll start with Nintendo. Nintendo, you gotta stop thinking we're so darn forgetful. Okay, the way that they handle these indie worlds, I think, has to change. I feel like they have gotten more and more caught up in just stretching them and elongating them. And they do this thing where they show a trailer for the game and then they talk over some gameplay or the trailer again, explaining what's happening. This is like rule number one of being on camera with video games. I learned this very early on. You do not just say what's happening on screen. People can see what's happening on screen. The point of a trailer is for us to get what the game is about. So you don't need to tell us that Tabs is such a wobbly game. I think the narrations are cornier than they are cute, and I think they're more annoying than they are helpful. So it's great to have the developers on screen. That part, you do it unique, you do it unlike any others, and I think it gives great shine and moments, special moments to these people that are hard at work. But then we don't need your Nintendo narrators telling us what the game is again, because we hear it from the devs, we see it in the trailer, and then you say it, it's just too much. Microsoft has mastered going from game to game to game. And if Nintendo wants to slow it down a bit with the developer spotlight, great, but stop the narration. It's overkill. Because if you don't like a certain game, the last thing you want is to hear it talked about 3 times. It makes you feel like, maybe I should just tune out because this segment is going on and on and on. And I think Nintendo would do themselves a big service by shrinking the segments and maybe giving more game segments or give more time to the games that they sizzle real through. Because at the end of the day, most of the games that they highlight for these huge segments are not coming out for a year. And that's the other issue with Indie World, is that Indie World is a show for the next year. Indie World is not a show really for what's happening now, although they do the surprise drops, which are still great. I love those. But most of Indie World is like, hey, way down the line. And I think with indie games, maybe more so than AAA games, it makes it feel more like, well, I guess I'll come back next year. Like, we know that we're excited for Breath of the Wild 2, but it's harder to know if we're excited for one of these indies we've never heard of. And then the ones that we are excited for, like Gunbrella or another Crab's Treasure, it's like, man, the good stuff you showed us today isn't even out for a year, so what was the point? Because it is such a smorgasbord and some stuff will appeal to you and some stuff will appeal to me, it's hard when some of the games are so far off and then they spend so much time and you're finally excited for one and oh, maybe it comes out in a year. But I will say that I thought today's showcase actually had some really awesome looking games. The aforementioned Gunbrella, that looks heavenly. It really could be the next great Switch indie. And then another Crab's Treasure, while silly and maybe even a bit dumb, actually looks really good. Souls-like, crab-like, love it. The graphics were actually really appealing to me, and I think that game might have the chops to kind of step above its silly structure and be something really good. Okay, Wild Frost from Chucklefish looks nasty cool, and then today's drops like Soundfall were really awesome. The Card Shark demo, also really awesome. Can't wait for that game on June 2nd. The Japanese indie world showed off Neon White, which is another exciting title coming this summer. So all in all, like, there was a lot of really cool stuff. But the problem is, everyone can only want what they already know about. So indie world is set up to fail more often than not. Because look, Nintendo is hell-bent on never having the same game appear twice, at least not in a significant form. Maybe if they have a release date, they'll like sizzle reel through it, but we want Hollow Knight, we want Sports Story, we want all these things that we've seen before, and they won't happen because Nintendo doesn't like to double dip in the indie worlds. Therefore, we're setting ourselves up for disappointment by wanting something that we know about when indie world is about things we don't know about. And I'm not saying it's our fault, but I do think we need to have a bit more of a different perspective because the next great indie isn't a game you know about. I'm always wishing for the next Celeste or the next Katana Zero, but those games, we didn't know what a Celeste was until we saw it. It's not like Celeste was the sequel to Celestial and we were so darn excited to see where they'd take that game in its next iteration. We didn't know it was a Celeste until we played it. So Gunbrella could be the next great indie. Another Crab's Treasure could be the next great indie. Wild Frost could be the next great indie. Cult of the Lamb, it could be our Katana Zero of 2022. And we won't know until we play it. So I think with some of these things, we do need to have a bit more of an open mind and open heart, because as much as we're excited for sequels and follow-ups and known properties that we've seen before, almost every big winner starts as a relatively unknown title. And so we won't know it until we know it. You know what I mean? I think that's why this show was better for me than maybe for most, because I was like, okay, a lot of new stuff here that has serious potential. Gunbrella gave me goosebumps, and Another Crab's Treasure made me super smile. I'm really excited to see if those can become the next great indie, because it's not just sequels that will deliver us phenomenal titles. And in fact, I think a lot of you would agree it would be more exciting if we did have brand new IP be the next Celeste instead of just a sequel to Celeste. But that being said, I think that the shadow that hangs over indie world because of Hollow Knight Silksong is now just insurmountable. I think that game has to come out before indie world is okay again, because I feel like every time we have an indie show and we don't see that, it's like, ugh, what are they doing? Wasting our time. So please, Team Cherry, you say it's not going to be much longer of a wait. Please, for surely, please release this game. Please give us a launch date at E3, and please put it behind us so indie world can have a little breathing room. And then Nintendo, tighten up your presentation and let's have some open arms about some new games. I think that's a much better way to frame these presentations than to slowly drag them out while we wish for games that Nintendo they just won't show us. Now, there is an alternative. Nintendo could change course and start double dipping. Brilliant idea. Crazy even. Ingenious. Psychotic. They probably won't do this, and that's why I call it an alternative, but they could make the shows more referential to their past shows. If you dig through Indie Worlds, you'll see that many of the games are not out when the next Indie World airs. And I think that in and of itself is bad. I think it really doesn't bode well when you're showing another showcase and the stuff you showed at the last showcase isn't even here. It makes it feel like, well, is this stuff even happening? Why are we seeing this? We haven't even got the last stuff. And that's where updates would provide a significant boost to the reception of the show. We know, oh, you still remember that you announced Sports Story. Oh, you still remember that you announced Hollow Knight. But I don't think Nintendo wants to do it. I think Indie World serves as a showcase for the new. And that's why I led with my better fix for the new, because I don't think this is even an option for them. I don't think the idea of re-going back is a thing because they keep these shows short, they keep them developer focused, and they don't want to go back and revisit unless it's like the day's release. Unless it's like the surprise drop, then okay, they'll say it. But oftentimes then, it's not. Like that's happened before, I think in a rare instance or two. But usually if we see a game again, it's only for a split second in a sizzle reel, if that at best. If that at best, like Card Shark we had seen before, and today they showed it for like a second or two, right? They didn't even show Shredder's Revenge again. We have previews. We have a release date this summer sometime, and they didn't do it. But I don't think they're gonna double dip. They like one flavor, and that is new. And I think we have to accept it. All right, we fixed Indie World, man. Nintendo, speed that stuff up. Erase the part where you think we're dummies and don't understand a trailer, and then we have to just understand what Indie World is and realize that the next great indie is probably not a game we've heard of, and therefore look at these with fresh eyes. I think that's important, I think it's helpful, and I think it will make this entire process smoother, easier, and better for the future. Because the fact is, there's more Indie Worlds coming this year. Probably 2 more. Usually there's like an August one, and then again a December one. I don't know what this year's schedule is gonna be like, but probably. And we're probably not gonna have any of the games we saw today be out when the next one airs. So, oh, Nintendo, just fix something. Do something, please. Listen to us. Take feedback. You finally brought folders. Fix Indie World. If you guys agree, let me know in the comments down below, or let me know if you disagree as well. That's fine. Make sure you're staying safe, staying healthy, staying happy, staying positive out there. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and until next time, I still hope you enjoyed it a little, because I still had fun. You know, between the games I like, man, it's still a pretty good time. All right, thanks again, everybody. SwitchForce, out.